The first sign was the color. At 3:14 Universal Time coordinated on the 9th of October, 1142 post-fall, every surviving telescope on Virelai turned upward at once. The night sky, normally a bruised violet pierced by the pale rings of the gas giant Casser, bled into a violent, arterial red. Not a gradual aurora, not a solar flare. One heartbeat the stars were there, the next the entire celestial sphere looked dipped in fresh blood. No radiation spike. No electromagnetic storm. Just color, perfect and absolute. The second sign was the silence that followed. Every calm array on the planet went dead simultaneously. Not jammed. Dead. As if the concept of radio waves had been politely removed from physics for 8 full seconds. Then the sky spoke. A single sentence, delivered in flawless old Virelai, a language that had not been spoken aloud in 9 centuries, boomed across every atmosphere pocket, every habitat dome, every buried shelter. We are sorry for the inconvenience. Please stand by for reintroduction. The voice was genderless, calm, and carried the faint weariness of someone who had delivered that exact line far too many times. That was how the humans came back. Not with ships. Not with weapons. They simply unfolded the sky like a curtain and stepped through. My name is Kale, Ninevos, last archivist of the underlibraries of Keth Barrier City. I was awake that night cataloging pre-fall poetry when the red light poured through the periscope slit above my desk. I thought the geothermal stacks had finally blown and painted the stratosphere with molten glass. I was wrong. By dawn, if you could call the crimson haze dawn, the first human stood in the central plaza of Keth Barrier. Just one. He wore a plain gray coat that looked 1,000 years out of fashion, carried no visible weapons, and stood perfectly still while 10,000 Virelai of every surviving caste stared from behind barricades of scrap and bone. His skin was pale, hair dark and unkempt, eyes the color of deep water. When he spoke again, it was only to me, because I was the only one foolish enough to walk forward. You kept the books, he said, nodding at the data slate in my hands. Good. We'll need those. His name, he told me later, was Elias Marrow. He claimed to be 3,742 years old, give or take leap years. He was the first of the returned, and he was terribly, unbearably polite. Within a week, there were hundreds of them. They walked out of thin air at random coordinates. Deserts, ice shelves, the poisonous ruins of the glass sea. Always one at a time. Always unarmed. Always exhausted. They asked for water, for stories, for proof that we had not completely destroyed ourselves after they left. They apologized constantly. For the red sky. For the silence. For abandoning us 1,142 years earlier, when the collapse came. We had no word for them at first. Skyburners, some called them. The red regret. But the old tongue had kept one term alive in children's threats and bedtime warnings, humans. Our ancestors. The ones who built the world and then tore it apart trying to leave it. The ones who, according to every corrupted archive, took one look at the coming dark and stepped sideways into nothing, sealing the door behind them. They had come home. And they were dying. Elias explained it to me on the 19th day, sitting across from me in the underlibrary, while I tried to stop my hands from shaking. Outside, 2 more humans had collapsed in the street dust, lungs filling with the metallic spores that now passed for air on Virelai. Their bodies were flawless replicas of pre-fall humanity, but the genome was wrong. Too clean. No immunities built across generations of breathing poison and eating irradiated lichen. They were museum pieces walking into a war zone. We thought we had more time, Elias said. His voice was soft, almost embarrassed. The Exodus arc was supposed to loop back after the radiation decayed. A few centuries, we thought. Not a millennium. Something delayed us. What could delay you for 1,200 years? I asked. He smiled without humor. Reality, Kale. Reality noticed we were cheating. I did not understand then. I understand now. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you the whole story, the one the returned begged me to write down before the last of them faded. The one no one will believe in another generation. The one that began with a red sky and ends with a choice no species should ever have to make again. This is the true account of the Year of Return. Part 1, The Apology. The humans ask permission for everything. May we enter your habitat? May we drink your recycled water? May we see the bones of our cities? We, who had clawed survival from a corpse world they left behind, should have hated them. Many did. But hatred is difficult when your enemy arrives already crying. They wept openly in the streets. Not delicate tears, great, broken sobs that terrified our children. They knelt in front of the melted statues of their own heroes and pressed foreheads to radioactive stone. They found the mass graves we had hidden even from ourselves and sang over them in a language that hurt to hear because it was beautiful and we had forgotten beauty. Elias told me they had spent the missing centuries in a place called the color of burnt copper, where time pooled like wax. They had not aged a day. They had watched us from afar, through windows they could not break. Every war, every famine, every time we chose to eat our own rather than share, they had seen. And they could not intervene. The door only opened one way, and only when we were nearly extinct. We set the threshold too high, he said. We told the gate, open when they need us most. It waited until only 32,000 of you remained. 32,000 Virelai, gene-sculpted descendants of the humans who stayed behind, twisted by radiation and desperation into something new. Feathers, scales, bioluminescence, extra joints, whatever it took to live. And now the originals walked among us, unchanged, horrified by what necessity had made of their children. They tried to help. They carried the sick to cleaner air. They remembered how to repair fusion cores without poisoning a city. They taught us the lost songs. But every act of kindness killed them a little faster. Their bodies, perfect and unadapted, broke down within weeks. Lungs bled. Bones softened. Immune systems turned on themselves in panic. By the third month, half were dead. By the sixth, only 93 remained. Elias was among them, thinning, hair falling out in clumps, but still smiling that tired smile. We have one thing left to give, he told me the night he asked me to follow him beyond the city's shields. But it will cost you everything you think you are. I went. Part 2. The Gate Beneath the World. He led me south, across the glass sea where ancient oceans had boiled away, leaving continents of black, mirrored sand. The sky had not returned to normal. It stayed the same arterial red, day and night, as if the planet wore a permanent bruise. 3 days' journey on foot, because the humans could no longer ride the maglines their hearts gave out under acceleration. On the fourth dawn we reached the place the old maps called the Cauldron, a crater 200 kilometers wide where, according to legend, the last orbital mirror fell during the collapse. There was no mirror left, only a hole, a perfect circle, edges sharp as if cut by a god's knife, descending into darkness. No heat shimmer, no radiation, just absence. Elias knelt at the edge. His coat hung from him like a tent. This is where we left, he said, and where we come back. The gate never closed. It only changed its price. I stared into the hole. Far below, something moved, something vast and patient. The delay wasn't time, Elias continued. It was payment. Reality, or whatever passes for it out there, demanded interest on our cowardice. Every year we hid. It took something from the world we abandoned. First the oceans, then the magnetosphere, then hope. It kept taking until we finally paid the principal. What principal? I asked. He looked at me with eyes that had seen 12 centuries of guilt. Extinction, he said. One species or the other. Us or you. The gate will close forever once the debt is balanced. I laughed then. A cracked, ugly sound. You came back to die? We came back to choose who dies, he corrected gently. And to ask forgiveness before we do. Part 3. The Choice. That night the last 93 humans gathered at the cauldron's edge. They had carried with them a device no larger than a child's coffin, woven from materials that drank the red light and gave nothing back. Elias called it the Mercy Engine. Its function was simple and monstrous. When activated, It would rewrite the genome of every living Virelai on the planet, smoothing away the mutations, the feathers, the venom glands, the second hearts. It would make us human again, baseline, unchanged, exactly as they had been before the fall. In exchange, the remaining humans would cease to exist. Not die, cease. Every memory of them, every artifact, every word they had spoken since returning, would be erased from reality. The sky would heal. The gate would seal. The debt would be paid. We would inherit a world slowly recovering, with oceans seeping back into basins, with a magnetosphere rebuilding itself thread by thread. We would have millions of years ahead of us. And we would never know they had come back to save us. Some Virelai, the ones who still had wings, the ones who breathed methane, the ones who photosynthesized under red light, begged the humans to take the bargain. "We are not you anymore," they said. "We are something better. Let us keep it." Others, those born in the deepest shelters with skin like ash and eyes that had never seen true daylight, fell to their knees and thanked the return for the chance to be whole again. I stood in the middle and felt my extra lungs flutter in panic. Elias found me there as the debate raged. "You have the casting vote," he said. "You kept the books. You remember what we were. You decide what you want to become." I looked at the Mercy engine. I looked at the 93 skeletons in human skin waiting for my answer. I looked at the red sky that was the color of their regret. And I asked the question that broke them. "What happens to you if we say no?" Elias closed his eyes. "If you refuse the rewrite, the gate stays open. The sky stays broken. In another century, Virelai dies completely. Your adaptations will reach equilibrium. You'll become something magnificent and alien, and nothing like us at all. And we stay. We finish dying here, the slow way. The debt goes unpaid forever. Reality keeps taking." He opened his eyes again. They were wet. Either way, one version of humanity ends tonight. The question is which one deserves to. Part 4. The sky went dark. I stood at the edge of the cauldron for a long time. I thought of the poetry I had saved, all of it written by hands that were no longer shaped like these returned hands. I thought of children born with gills who had never seen the ocean, because we drank it to survive. I thought of the human statues weeping radioactive tears. Then I knelt and unplugged the Mercy engine. I pulled its power core free with my own hands and hurled it into the hole. The 93 watched me in silence. Behind us, the assembled Virelai, scaled, feathered, radiant, monstrous, began to cheer. Not because they understood yet, but because they felt the shift. The red sky flickered. Elias smiled. It was the first real smile I had seen from any of them. "Thank you," he whispered. One by one the returned began to unravel. Not dramatically. They simply became less real. Colors drained. Outlines blurred. Within minutes only Elias remained, translucent as smoke. "Will you remember us?" he asked. "No," I said, and the honesty hurt. "That's the point. You'll finally be gone. For good this time." He nodded, accepting. Tell whatever you become, that we were proud of you, even when it hurt." Then he stepped backward into the cauldron and was gone. The gate folded shut without sound or light. The crater floor rose seamlessly until there was only smooth glass where the hole had been. Above us, for the first time in 1,142 years, the sky began to lose its red. Stars returned, tentative and cold. The rings of Kasser glimmered like ice. And 32,000 Virelai, every one of us something new, looked up at a night that belonged to us alone. We did not become human again. We became the children who stayed. We kept our feathers, our scales, our venom and bioluminescence. We kept the extra lungs that let us sing in 2 registers at once. We kept the memories of starvation and war and the taste of our own kin when there was nothing else. And somewhere, in the deepest underlibrary, in a vault no one will open for 10,000 years, I sealed this account. If you are reading this, it means we made it. It means the sky is whatever color you were born under. It means the humans finally paid their debt and let us pay ours in full. Remember them if you can. They loved us enough to stop being real, so we could keep becoming. The sky burned red once. Then humanity appeared and chose to leave again forever. So we could stay.